watering, and more watering. That's what's up here at PDX Garden Home. It's been a heat wave here in the Portland metro area for the last week or so, and yeah, and on top of that, well, I got sick. I'm isolating from others and doing okay. I'm on day 3 or 4 here, not exactly sure which, but I'm surviving, but I'm not getting out to do as much gardening as I want, and certainly not doing as much video making as I want. So that's why you haven't seen much from me in the last week or so here, but I'm gonna get back at it and show you some things that are going on here in the amazing July garden. Well, I'm just processing the last of the garlic here. I'm collecting in the baskets the stuff that I'll either save for seed or some that will kind of chop up right away because they're not good for saving. They are kind of falling apart. They were in the ground a little bit too long, some of these. But then I also have some nice kind of hard neck cloves here, and they've got really kind of long stems on here. So what I do is I just kind of bunch them together in about a dozen and tie them up to dry in the I just bunch them together in about a dozen and then tie them up to dry in the potting shed. And there you'll see I've got kind of the braided soft neck garlic, and then I've just got the bunched up hard neck garlic, and they're both drying out and curing, and pretty much will be really ready to go soon. Actually, many are already ready to go as is. Hey, what's up? I'm down here in the basement nursery. It's super hot outside. It's like 98 degrees, but it's a reasonable temperature down here. So I've got my fall seedlings started. So let me take you around and show you what I have in these trays. These are the seedlings for the fall garden. They are in the nice kind of air-conditioned basement nursery, so they're not getting fried with the heat wave we're having out there. So we've got broccoli here. This is beets, both golden beets and the red ones there. This is 2 kinds of fennel, kind of your more classic fennel here. This is a different kind of fennel back here, called the Leonardo fennel was the variety name. This is Great Lakes lettuce. This could actually do with some heat, so I might take this tray outside sooner rather than later and get it in the outdoor nursery. Down here we've got the Brussels sprouts here, red cabbage, and a Copenhagen cabbage here, I believe. Let me check. Yep, Copenhagen cabbage. Here, there's a lettuce back here, like a bib lettuce back here, and then I've got some Johnny jump ups. They haven't really done much here. I don't know if it's just they don't like this temperature or what, but over here I've got, what is this? This is oh, cauliflowers. So I've got my cauliflowers there, and this is my, oh, it's more cauliflower. Okay, I really like cauliflower. More cabbage there. Uh-oh, what happened here? Napa cabbage, and they are flowering. Uh-oh, it's too hot for them down here, I guess. Huh, I mean, it doesn't feel that hot down here, but I guess so. And then beets. These are sugar beets. I've never grown sugar beets before. I found some seeds for them from M.I. Gardener, so I'm excited to give them a go. No new plantings this week, but here's what we harvested. Lettuce, kale, chard, broccoli, cauliflower, actually some Brussels sprouts, big cabbage, jalapenos, sweet peppers, small eggplants, and of course the garlic. Hey, well, here's our biggest cabbage of the season. Most of the cabbages I harvest will have some bug damage on the outside leaves. This one had a few on the outside leaves, but underneath looking beautiful. So we're excited for this. Copenhagen. This is I grow kind of 2 kinds of cabbage. Well, 3 if you count the Asian cabbage or the Napa cabbage, but this is this is a Copenhagen cabbage, so that's the typical one that I grow. That's kind of the green cabbage. And then I also grow like I'll grow a red cabbage as well, but this is obviously the Copenhagen cabbage. I wanted to talk a little bit about self-care and garden care when it is super hot out. And to put it in perspective or context for those who aren't in our area, it has been in the high 90s to 100 degrees for the last few days in the Portland, Oregon metro area and other parts of the Northwest. That create some garden challenges. In terms of self-care during heat like this, the most obvious thing is choosing when to be in the garden. And it gets warm outside, it's blue sky, it's beautiful. It makes me feel like I want to be out here all day, but that's not really healthy under most circumstances to just be out here all day in this kind of heat. And so I have to get up early. It's really the way to do it. Get up early. If you, between the hours of 6 or 7 a.m. up till almost noon, it's a reasonable time to be in the garden. And that pretty much covers the amount of gardening I could do in a day, even if it's on a weekend anyway, just in terms of total hours that I can take in terms of energy wise. And so it's about planning that. You know, I've looked at the way the heat works and the question, well, could I do the same thing by planning my gardening, you know, as the sun goes down when the sun's not directly on you? It is for sure easier when the sun's not directly on you, but you really can't, the evening is not the same as the morning when it comes to this climate. Still, you know, in the morning it's anywhere from high 60s, low 70s up until it starts to heat up at noon. But in the evening, even up until like 10, 11 at night, it's still, it's in the 90s and then the 80s, and it's still really hot. So it's not equivalent. It's not like the evening is the same as the morning. It really is the morning is when you really need to be ready to get up and garden if you want to be a gardener in this kind of scenario, at least for me, and if you're anything like me, I'll say that. And then obviously keeping yourself hydrated. I definitely notice that I feel more tired as I'm going throughout the day. And if I, you know, have a lot, I keep a big jug of water or soda or whatever it is that I'm into drinking with me, and I drink that. When I say soda, I mean soda water. That makes a big difference. It really helps. It keeps me feeling more energized throughout the day. I think just the drain of the heat and the water just going out of your body just makes you feel more tired. Keeping your own water regimen up. So those are a couple of things. Start in the morning, keep your own water regimen up, can still have an enjoyable gardening time even in weather like this. Now, when it comes to the plants, I did a few episodes back on how I'm watering this really big garden here. Heat like this, all bets are off. I'm watering all day something in some fashion. So, you know, we've got shady areas and woodland areas of the garden, and even those need to be watered. They're very dry, and we've got really nice old trees, and they need a drink too, right? So during the hottest part of the day where it's just sunny across most of the garden, the woodland area is shaded, and that's a good time for me to water the rest of the garden. And so I'm watering those woodland areas, those shady areas, and keep getting them hydrated. I don't have to water them as much. I may, you know, with this kind of heat, I might only water them once a week or so, as opposed to the rest of the garden, which I'm now watering at least every other day. You know, the sprinklers that I use, I've talked about before, they don't put down a whole lot of water at once. They have to run for a good couple of hours just to get a good amount of water on there. And as a practical matter, I can't be out here with the hose every day. I just don't have the time for that. So I definitely need those sprinklers. So I'm doing a combination of rotating the sprinklers, those are on, and then personally going out around with the hose. And I'm getting it with the hose maybe once to twice a week, and I'm getting it with the sprinklers like every other day. Each of the zones in this garden. So keeping the water regimen up. I know people say, oh, you know, I deep water and therefore I don't need to water that much. Well, in this kind of heat, I don't buy that. Yes, your plants probably survive, but I don't think they're thriving in this kind of heat if you're only deep watering once a week. That would be a phenomenal situation. I checked the ground, and yeah, with deep watering twice a week, it is true that even with the heat, if you dig down, yes, it is moist under there, but you're talking like, it's moist like you have to go 4 inches down under there, right? It's not moist like an inch or two down there. But there is a huge spectrum between surviving and thriving, and it's reasonable based on depending on your budget and depending on your goals. It is very reasonable to say, hey, you know, here in Portland, Oregon, it's only going to get temperatures like this for a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks in the year. They may not all be at the same time. They may be kind of spread out. But whenever we're hitting temperatures like this, it is reasonable to take the position that my garden's just not going to thrive because it's not practical for me to spend the time and money to make it thrive during a heat wave like that. I'm just going to water for survival. And that's fine. That's different than what I'm doing. I am watering to keep the garden thriving during the heat wave, which is a whole different animal. So I totally respect the position of, I'm just going to do what I need for it to survive, which is what I do in some parts. Like, it's not actually all or nothing for me. In some cases, I'm watering to survive certain areas that I'm not as
don't care as much about, so to speak. Just frankly, just don't care as much about that part of the garden. And so I'm just like, I'm just going to keep this alive. And so I'm not going to worry about keeping it fully hydrated even during the heat wave. But there's other things that I really want to thrive, parts of the veggie garden that we put a lot of time into so far, and we want it to thrive throughout the season. So yeah, I'm gonna keep hitting it with water as it needs it. And like I'm saying here, or I'm ranting here, and in so many ways, that's definitely more than just once a week in weather like this. Well, yeah. So, and the other things that people do, which I think are great, I haven't done this, but I was thinking about this the other day. I think this is an awesome idea. Of course, people put up shade cloth. I've done variations of that. I'm not excited about like putting up lots of sheets and shade cloth and stuff around the garden. But I have seen or heard people basically just bringing out lots of old umbrellas. And I thought, wow, that could really be kind of cool and decorative in a certain way. You know, when you hit the heat wave, just, you know, if you have the storage space to just have like dozens of old umbrellas, and you can just go position them around the garden at certain times when you have this issue. I really like that idea, and that's something I'm thinking I might want to try next year. I'm not doing it right now, so as it is today, my plants get no protection from the sun. So if they are meant to be in the sun during regular garden times, then they are full on in the sun during this heat wave, and they just have to survive that. So my only mitigation to help them survive and then, like I said, thrive during the heat wave is water. I'm not doing a lot with trying to set up shade and stuff like that. All of that is to say, these are my strategies for dealing with the heat wave and still enjoying gardening, dealing with it for myself and dealing with it for the garden. And I hope you all have some good strategies and are doing well, and that you're still getting out in the garden. So let's get back out there and do some gardening, and tell me down in the comments what you're doing, if you're in this area, or if you have similar issues in whatever area you're in with heat waves coming once in a while. What do you do to deal with it, and what works for you? I'd love to hear that. And yeah, of course, it's always great. It means the world to me if you like and subscribe and join me here, and we can garden together going forward.